everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee Diaries, the series where we talk about all things blogging and photography. Last week I got to have a guest on the show, Samuel, where we talked about friendships in blogging. So if you guys haven't seen it, I'll say be sure to catch up on it. It's quite a long one, so make sure you have your brew in hand. Speaking about brews, I do have my cup of tea in hand. Please excuse the state of this cup because I have been drinking tea from it all morning, because right now as I'm speaking to you guys it's actually snowing outside, but we're not going to go into it. So yeah, I'm drinking a cup of tea now, so let's get into the show. Today we're going to be answering 2 questions that were raised in the past few weeks that I'm now getting to. I love the fact that these 2 questions are photography related, which is going to make this episode very cohesive. Cheers to that. Okay, so the first question was about photography for beginners. Before I go into that, I'd like to point out that I do have a video on my YouTube channel that I did 2 years ago talking about how I taught myself photography. It is a video that I would highly recommend that you check out. It is packed with some useful information that I'm sure you would find very helpful. I will link it in the description box down below. So now that I have that out of the way, I would say the main thing for learning photography as a beginner is familiarize yourself with the equipment that you already have. One misconception that a lot of people tend to have when it comes to photography is that better and more expensive equipment deliver better visuals and images. Why that might be true, I have also seen people take pictures on their phones, and these pictures have been very captivating to stir up, wonderful conversations online. So I would say familiarize yourself with whatever you already own. Say for example, if you're shooting with a phone, get to know lighting. Like I shoot with natural lighting. Right now I'm shooting with natural lighting and the light keeps changing, which you might be able to see as the video goes on. But I would say as a photographer, familiarize yourself with lighting if you're using a phone, not just if you're using the phone, also if you're using a DSLR. And there's so many phone editing apps that you can then use to make the pictures come out better. My favorites are VSCO Cam and Snapseed and Lightroom Mobile. People also use Photoshop, but I prefer Lightroom Mobile over Photoshop. So just playing around with what you already have, getting to know it and understand it better. It's very easy for you to go out and read about all of this or watch videos about learning photography, but if you don't go out there and put it into practice, then you're not going to improve. So my advice would be also to go out and practice. And if you're shooting with a DSLR, I would say try and shoot in manual mode. I love shooting in manual mode because it gives me more control over my images. In order to shoot in manual mode, you need to understand the relationship between ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. There are so many tutorials on YouTube which cover these topics, but also I do have an ebook called The Blogger Photographer where I talk about ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. So if you do want to grab it, feel free to grab it. But it's something that I would definitely encourage you to learn and also put into practice. Shooting in manual mode, the moment I did it, I never went back on doing it. I also advise that you shoot in RAW as well, because when you shoot in RAW, as opposed to JPEG, it allows you more control in post-production. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. I will link all of this in the description box down below. So I would advise you watch these videos and go out there and put what you've learned into practice, because that is the only way you're going to get better at it. That then takes me to the next question, which is how do you stay in focus when you shoot self-portrait and you have movement in your shot? So I would say the way we take our self-portraits is by using a tripod and a camera. And I already mentioned that we always shoot in manual mode because Craig is with me for a lot of the times. What tends to happen when we take our couple self-portraits is that I get Craig to stand in the position where we intend to stand for the shoot, and I focus on him manually. Then I join him, And then we set the camera on a 10-second self timer, which gives me enough time to go into position. And what we essentially do is fake the movement. So we stand on the spot where we've already focused on. And say, for example, if we're going to take a shot where it looks like we're walking away, rather than walking away, we create the illusion of walking away by moving back and forth on the same spot. And that is how we create motion in the shots and stay in focus, because we've already focused on that spot where we're standing in. But another way to get around this is to actually set your camera lens to shoot in autofocus. We shoot in manual focus, it's just our preference, but you can actually set your lens to shoot in autofocus. My friend Samuel does take a lot of self-portrait, and she was the one that was featured in the last episode of the podcast. And what she does is that she uses the autofocus on her lens. And I know this because she uses the same lens that I do, which is the Sigma 50mm f1.4 lens. All my camera gear is actually listed in the description box down below. So if you want to check it out, feel free to. So yeah, you can actually set your camera to shoot in autofocus mode. What that means is that when you're still in position to take the shot, your camera will automatically detect you and focus on you, and that way you will be in focus. Sometimes it might focus on something else, but chances are that it is more likely to focus on you as the subject. Also, there's so many tutorials on self-portraits on YouTube, so I will also link them in the description box down below. Like I said earlier on, in order to get better at anything, you have to go out there and practice. So I urge you that after you watch these videos, you go out and practice. Also, my ebook details how I take my self-portrait as well. So if you want to grab a copy of my ebook, feel free to grab it. It's also linked in the description box down below. I hope that actually answers your questions. If you feel like you need me to elaborate more on it, you guys know what to do. Leave your questions in the comment box down below, and also tweet us at mycoffeediaries on Twitter. And until next time, I will see you guys next week. Bye!